last August, and our four comrades, four amazing, talented organizers who are members of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, have been leading that struggle for justice, leading that struggle against the attorney, demanding murder charges for those deputies, and fighting for justice all around in Denver. And they were attacked last Thursday, just a couple days ago. All four were rounded up within a matter of hours. They weren't arrested at any protest. They were specifically targeted because of their role in the movement. One comrade was stormed by the SWAT team in his own home. Another comrade, while she was driving, 5 cop cars were surveying her and pulled her over and arrested her. Another comrade arrested at a Home Depot parking lot, and another one just hours later. There were other protesters, non-members who were organizers in the movement, who were also arrested that day. And we're here to say that the police should arrest their own co-workers, the killer cops, instead of framing protesters. Every single one of those protesters is charged with felonies, while those killer cops who murdered Elijah McClain walk free. We say that this is injustice, and we demand the immediate prosecution of those killer cops and the immediate freedom of those protesters, because all but one of those organizers is still in prison today. None of them have had a bail hearing either. They are being kept in prison. They are America's political prisoners, and they stand in history with so many other political prisoners in the United States who have been in the struggle, in the movement for Black lives, in the movement for justice here in the United States. And I want to introduce a speaker who has dedicated their lifetime to that same movement, another organizer from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. His name is Andrew, and he's been in this since 2011. Please give a warm round of applause to Andrew Nance from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Andrew is taking his time today, it looks like. For now, where is Andrew? There he is. Give him a round of applause. Let me hear you say, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No racist, no racist. That's right, brothers and sisters. So it's important for us to all understand that this attack is not simply an attack on the organizers that are sitting in jail, but it is a coordinated assault on the movement against racism and police terror all across this country. Right? As my comrade mentioned earlier, just on Thursday, several organizers, leaders of the fight back in Denver and Aurora who have organized large-scale protests to demand justice for Elijah McClain were all arrested within hours of another. Lillian House, Joel Northman, Eliza Lucero. Those comrades are still in jail today. They pulled over Lillian with 5 police cars while she was driving. They stormed Joel's house with SWAT teams and arrested him. They picked up another comrade while he was in a parking lot. And I want to emphasize these tactics because in this very state, the police allowed the known driver of a car that drove full speed into a protest and injured many to go right home. They questioned this driver and they let him go. But what did they do to these organizers of peaceful protest? They engaged in these unnecessary tactics as an attempt to intimidate and to scare them. But we have been in touch with these organizers, and let me assure you that they are not afraid, that they have not been deterred, that they know that we have their backs. So what have they been charged with? Trumped up charges. They've been charged with very phony and absolutely ludicrous felonies, including burglary, including theft, including the outrageous charge of kidnapping. But the truth is that these organizers have done absolutely nothing wrong. All that they have done have organized these large-scale protests. They have stood up against a corrupt system, against officials that are complicit in the corruption and the violent murder of our people. They have done absolutely nothing wrong. The only thing that they are guilty of is for standing against injustice.
These charges, this assault, it is a political frame-up. The very people who have arrested them are the very people who have been subject of the demonstrations, calling out the cops, calling out the district attorney. So now they are trying to retaliate against them. Right? They're trying to set an example of these organizers, that anytime you stand up, you will have to face the wrath of the state. But I know, comrades and friends, I know that we as the people are going to make an example out of this of our own, and that example is an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us, and that anytime you mess with our leaders, our organizers, our brothers and sisters, we will take to the streets, we will stand up, and we will organize, and we will win. We will what? Win. We will what? Win. That's right. So these comrades, I had the opportunity of getting to know them this summer when I traveled to Colorado, and they're some of the most brave organizers that I've ever met. They're some of the most fearless leaders that I've ever come into contact with, inspiring, educating the masses, day in and day out, dedicating themselves. And we know that it is people just like this throughout history, who programs by the FBI like COINTELPRO have tried to lock up on trumped up charges, who have tried to take away from our movements to weaken our struggle. Right? We know that those very actions are happening all across the country now. So it's not in isolation. It's something that we have to stand in solidarity with in other states as we're doing now. But it's also something that is happening here at home. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what this movement means and why these politicians, why these institutions of oppression feel so threatened. Because up until now, they haven't seen anything like this in a very, very long time. They thought that they could get away with murdering people and a slap on the wrist and that people would stay home. But these organizers, these leaders said absolutely not. There is a movement here, and if you want to join, come through. So they tried to cut off the head of this movement, but more will grow back because they have inspired many and many leaders just like them. So, as we all learn and hear from more speakers today, I want to remind us that we're here to demand that every single one of these charges be dropped, that we free our comrades immediately, that the people who are guilty of murdering Elijah McClain be charged and jailed. That's right, I want to emphasize that there are people walking free who murdered somebody, and the people who are behind bars today organize peaceful protests. What does this tell you about the system? What does this tell you about the people who are in charge and who are making decisions? It says that the system does not serve us, and it says that they do not serve us either, and we have a right to tear these institutions down, to demand that these people step down, to stand up against them and expose them for what they are. Our comrades need our support. They need us to elevate the struggle, elevate their cases. So as you are all taking pictures here or filming, I want to encourage everyone to use the hashtag DropTheChargesCO. I want to encourage everyone to visit psoweb.org/donate for the number 4 Denver. And donate for the legal fees. I want comrades to sign the petitions. They need our support. We need to stay in the struggle, comrades. Thank you.
Peace. All right, thank you, Andrew, for those words. Now, before I invite our next speaker to the mic, I have a brief statement to read from Jim Lafferty. He is the Executive Director Emeritus of National Lawyers Guild, Los Angeles. These are the folks who wear the green caps at these protests, who protect the protesters on the ground. So Jim could not be with us today, but wanted to extend his solidarity. He writes, the same Denver area district attorney who refused to charge the cops responsible for the police murder of Elijah McClain has now brought ludicrous charges against the Party for Socialism and Liberation activists who are protesting the failure to charge those murderous cops. Yes, he's filed kidnapping charges against peaceful demonstrators. These peaceful demonstrators encircled the local police station, demanding the offending officers be charged. His so-called reasoning is that the protesters were effectively holding the police in the police station against their will. How ridiculous is that? But of course, they were effectively holding the cops. But of course, there was absolutely nothing preventing the cops in the police station from leaving. The real kidnapping is the kidnapping of the right to protest in America. Peaceful protesters are being held to the increasing threats of unconstitutional criminal prosecutions aimed at chilling the right to protest. Criminal prosecutions that turn the meaning of sedition and rioting and now kidnapping laws on their heads. Drop the draconian charges against the PSL and other activists. Stop governmental assaults on the right to protest in America. Thank you, Jim. So let's do a little chant. No justice, no peace. Prosecute the police. No justice, no peace. Prosecute the police. Come on. All right. Now I'd like to introduce Joe Delphine, a longtime organizer with the Answer Coalition. Answer stands for Act Now to Stop War and Racism Coalition. Please welcome Joe.
Thank you all for coming out on such short notice. It's important to show solidarity across the country when they're trying to silence us. Stay in the streets. When AIDS was killing us, we organized because the Democrats and the Republicans let us die. What are they doing to us right now? They're letting us die. How many people are homeless? How many people have lost their jobs? Millions of us are starving. Millions of us don't have education. Millions of us don't have housing. And the Democrats and the Republicans are saying, oh, wait till November and then we'll do something. They knew since January and they've done nothing. COVID is making AIDS, I don't want to say Trump, but it's crushing and killing us faster than even AIDS did. And what are the Democrats and what are the Republicans doing? Nothing. They're letting us die. And they're telling our kids to go back to school, and they're saying go out and shop, but they're doing nothing for us. So we show solidarity. This ain't going to stay on, I'm sorry. We're going to show solidarity across this country because the one thing the ruling class fears is this: solidarity. Unions, immigrants, women, LGBTQ people, undocumented, all of us. Did I say indigenous? Let me say it again. All of us out in the streets. This is what they fear. SWAT and militarized cops started right here in Los Angeles. Why? Black Panthers feeding hungry women and kids. They feared, cops feared the Black Panthers and the black community rising up. And what do they fear right now? The exact same thing. Black people are in the streets saying, no more, you are not going to kill us. And people are rising up, not just here, but around the world. And it scares the hell out of the ruling class. Don't be quiet. Don't be intimidated. Stay in the streets. Stay united. Sign that petition and free the Denver comrades who are defending your right to protest. Use it or lose it, because an injury to one is an injury to all of us. We have numbers, and they fear us. Use that power, because right now, we're all we got. There is no plan B from the Democrats or the Republicans. Biden wrote the very bills that put 2.5 million of us, our brothers and sisters, in jail, primarily Black and Latino people. Biden now wants to be your president. So, what are you going to do when he wins? And I didn't say which he, because it's two rich, white, racist guys yet again. So we are in the streets. We are loud. They made so much noise. If I'm repeating this, I apologize. The protesters freeing the Denver protesters were so loud that they could hear them in the jail cell. So make some noise, Los Angeles. An injury to one is an injury to all. When racist cops go on the attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. When racist cops go on the attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. Stay loud and stay in the streets. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you so much, Joe. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. If we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down. Before our last speaker tonight, I would like to read excerpts from one more statement. This
This one was sent to us from movements and organizations around the world: Africa, Asia, Latin America, Europe, including ALBA, Movimiento Central de Trabajadores de Cuba, the Socialist Party of Zambia, and many more. It reads, "The movements and member organizations of the International People's Assembly make an international call for solidarity with the political prisoners of Denver, USA, arrested on September 17th for leading in the massive anti-racist protest movement that has taken to the streets, demanding justice for George Floyd, Elijah McClain, and other victims of racist police brutality in the United States. These political prisoners have not committed crimes. They are being criminalized only for exercising their right to protest for justice, and because they work closely with other activists and relatives of victims of police brutality to expand their cases. Furthermore, this is a political attack against the entire international anti-racist movement. Therefore, it is essential that we mobilize solidarity with the political prisoners of the anti-racist struggle in the United States, in all regions of the world, demanding the immediate release of the people arrested and the dismissal of the multiple charges against them." Thank you so much to all those standing in solidarity with this struggle around the world. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Now I'd like to invite our final speaker up to the mic. Jonathan Kim is an activist labor organizer. Please welcome Jonathan.
All right, folks. Say his name, Elijah McClain. Say his name. Say his name. Say his name. All right, thank you all for being here. Oh shit, my thing is coming off also. My name is Jonathan. I'm a proud organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm also a proud union organizer. And, I want to start off by saying that a lot of people have been linking what's been happening to our comrades in Denver with the rise of fascism across the United States. And rightfully so, as we look at the movement that's happening around us. But as we ring the alarm bells, we also have to be going back to the history books. Because when we look towards history, we see that for people of color, and particularly for Black Americans, that fascism in the United States has a long, long history. When we say there's freedom of speech or freedom of assembly, freedom of speech for who? Freedom of assembly for who? We can look through the history, and we all know this. We know the history of slavery, we know the history of Jim Crow, we know what happened during the Civil Rights Movement. Right, in the antebellum South, slaves weren't allowed to congregate because slave owners were afraid that the slaves would gather together and resist and rebel and escape. During the Jim Crow period, people were lynched in order to terrify the community from having their right to vote. So people fled. People fled in mass to the north and to the west, to our state here in California. And what did they find? They found more racism and more oppression, right? The speaker from earlier mentioned what happened with the Panthers. The Panthers were infiltrated from within. Their organization was spied upon, people were jailed, people were murdered. And to this day, activists are getting murdered, activists are getting jailed. Why does this happen? Right? What were the high crimes of the Panthers? They were feeding people and they were organizing self-defense. There has never existed in America, for Black Americans, in which civil rights are guaranteed. They have always needed to be fought for. There has always been fascist terrorism that tries to scare dissenters into shutting up and staying down. When our comrades were arrested in Denver, it was actually our Black comrade who was arrested by a decked-out SWAT team, and they particularly targeted him. The state was trying to send a message. You're shaking things up too much. you better watch out. You don't get to challenge us in this way. You see, slavery, racism, black oppression, they are so rooted into the American system that they know that black liberation is only possible one way, and that's through tearing down the entire system. Black liberation is revolution, and revolution is black liberation. We cannot separate the two. So we all have friends, we have coworkers that know about this movement, and they ask themselves, why does it matter to me? I don't really care. And earlier I asked, freedom of speech for who, right? Because most of the time we enjoy freedom of speech. But that's not always true, because there's actually somewhere where we spend the majority of our lives where none of us have the freedom of speech, and that's in the workplace. We don't have the freedom of speech when we want to form a union and the boss can fire us because we said we want a union. We don't have freedom of speech in the workplace when we want to put on a Black Lives Matter pin or say Black Lives Matter, and the boss has the right to fire us for bringing politics into the workplace, even though that politics I wanted y'all to say it, not me. Right, so in all of our workplaces, we actually experience the same oppression. And so we have to fight together because we're fighting against a common oppressor, the capitalist class. They're the reasons why people die in the streets every single day, every single week, and nothing is done about it. Because they are the ones who hold power. And let me tell you, the oppression that we see with our comrades, you know, we shouldn't expect that this is going to be the end of it, right? Things might get harder as we continue to challenge the system. We may see more and more political oppression. They want us to be afraid. And black people are going to continue to get murdered without reason by the police, unfortunately. But the repression that we see is a sign. It's a sign that we've challenged them. It's a sign that they're afraid. They're afraid because we have more power than they do. So today, we have to get organized. We have to be ready to fight, and we have to be deeply invested in the liberation of every oppressed and marginalized community, and we have to be ready to win. So when I say, when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan, for those inspiring words. Jonathan gave us a really quick rundown about the history of police repression, of COINTELPRO, of all the people who came before us. I think we need to understand that in this uprising in the past couple of months, it has been mainly the youth which have led that uprising, who have poured onto the streets. But we can't be self-centered. We must understand that before us, there were many more people who experienced the exact same type of oppression, who in times when it wasn't popular to come out on the streets, did the hard work of organizing, of making sure that a foundation was set, a culture was set in which where we all can come out to the street and push the narrative further, push for more progressive ideas. And the next speaker we have is someone who's been in the movement for a very long time, someone who understands police repression, someone who lived through that COINTELPRO era, someone who is the founding member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'd like to proudly introduce Preston Wood, a founding member of the PSL. Please welcome Preston.
Hello everybody, thank you Ernesto. I wanted to just open up by saying yes, what we are seeing now, it may look scary, you know, the KKK and all these like fascists getting all this media and all this support from the Trump administration. But what's really scaring them is the unity that's been unfolding in the streets by millions of people. Yes, it is a youth-led revolt. It is leaders for tomorrow, for everything that's coming, and the revolutionary struggles ahead. And we can feel confident and proud of our black sisters and brothers who have shown so much leadership and resolve, have set an example of struggle in spite of all the brutality and murder and racist actions by the police. We are stronger than they are. We are powerful. And we're going to, as other comrades have said, we're going to free our comrades and friends in Denver, and we're going to free the streets in Los Angeles, New York, Portland, Oregon, wherever you name it, cities big and small. The working class is coming alive. We're on the verge of a period of struggle, intensified struggle, with more and more people coming to our ranks of our party, but into other organizations as well. And we salute that, and we support that. We're done with sectarianism and people fighting over nothing. We have to unite and target the enemy for what they are. Murderous agents of the ruling elite, the billionaire class, who delight in sowing discord and division in our ranks. We cannot let that happen, and we will not. For those of us who are older, we see the failures that happened as well as the successes in the 60s and the 70s, and we see that we have moved, we have deepened our relationship as working class people, as the servants of the rich, being ripped off, being laid off, our children being denied. We are not going to stand still. We're going to keep growing. And I salute every one of you. It's such a moment of pride seeing this outpouring of resistance and revolutionary optimism and militancy and anti-racism in favor of unity of all the working class who have the ability to run society without the parasites who have gotten control of everything. We have to take it back. We need a workers' government. We need a government. We can do it too. We're the ones in all these offices doing everything. They're not. They're playing golf or whatever it is they do, trying to plot against us. But what's going on in Denver, and it's happening in so many cities, is this coalescence of people coming out and fighting. It used to be the major cities where you would see the big demonstrations. Now they're happening all over the place because everyone, wherever you are, you have to be aware of watching your back, not to lose your home, not to lose your children, not to lose your relatives, your families, your neighbors, your co-workers. Together we're going to unite, we're going to fight, and we're going to win. Trust me, we're going to win. We're going to win this struggle. The working class will prevail. You'll see. Thank you. No justice! No peace! No racist! No peace! 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 Say his name, Elijah McClain! 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 What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! And if we don't get it, shut it down! And if we don't get it, shut it down! And if we don't get it, shut it down! I said if we don't get it, shut it down! The people united will never be defeated! 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 Thank you, Preston, for those inspiring words. I don't know about you, but every time I see someone who's been in the movement for a long time, someone who's been struggling for so long, talking to young people, telling us that we will win, that if we fight, we will win, if we're united, if we put all our differences behind and unite around the one thing that unites us in this society, the fact that we are ordinary, oppressed, working class people, then we will win. Because that's the only thing we have. The fact that we make society run. And it's about time we run society. Right. Now, I want to introduce another speaker, someone who's also been a leader in the current moment,
an organizer with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. Please welcome Joseph.
What's up, y'all? How we doing? Black lives, they matter here! 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 Shay, absolutely. So, my name is Joseph. I'm with Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. And I'm here because it's our duty to be here. I'm here in solidarity with PSL because PSL continues to be in solidarity with the Black liberation struggle, right? Not just here in Los Angeles where our folks are constantly showing up, not just showing up, but supporting the Black liberation movement in Los Angeles, right? But in Denver as well, and across the country as well, right? And so we're seeing just the same way as folks in Black organizations like BLM are being criminalized, folks who show up from PSL, folks who've shown up with no organization are being criminalized as well, right? Because they want to make us afraid. They want to make us afraid. They want to silence us. Those of us who are raising our voices right now, who are using our voices and our bodies to demand change, scares the shit out of them. Scares the shit out of them. Right? Our folks are coming on with their voices and their signs and are being responded and met with lethal weapons in some cases, riot gear, right? Because our resistance, even if it is just our voices and our bodies, is a threat to this system. Our resistance is a threat to the ruling class. Our resistance is a threat to the way things are, to the status quo, right? That's why they're criminalizing protest. To make us afraid, to make us stop fighting back, to make us stop standing up, to make us stop using our voices. And so that's why it was important for me to be here today. That's why it's important for Black Lives Matter to be in solidarity with folks who are in the streets getting brutalized and criminalized while they're out here protesting for change. Ashe? So, here with our family, because folks who are using right now their voices, their bodies, their lives to call out injustice, to demand change. Y'all are my family. Y'all are my people. So an attack, right, just like the labor movement says, an injury to one is an injury to all, and an attack on one of our brothers or sisters or siblings who are in these streets is an attack on us, right? Because the goal of these attacks, the goal of this repression is to scare us, is to silence us, is to make folks go back into their homes after all these months in the streets thinking, damn, nothing changed. Nothing happened, our voices don't matter. Some folks got arrested, some folks got brutalized, but nothing changed. Are we gonna let that happen? No. Hell no! Hell no! Hell no! Because at the very same time, our continued resistance, our continued willingness to show up, our continued willingness to raise our voices, to demand change, this is the shit that is inspiring, right, our brothers and sisters and siblings to get into the struggle. If we stop now, right, because a few folks got arrested or brutalized, right, what have we won? Nothing. We can't stop yet. We absolutely can't stop. Like our brother said, he's been fighting for decades, right? And his fight is a victory. The fact that we still have the will to resist is a victory. The fact that this year, right, more folks have protested and demanded justice and demanded change than at any time, almost probably in human history, right? That is a victory. But it's not the only victory. It's not the ultimate victory, right? Because the victory that we're fighting for, the victory that we're demanding, is the reorganization of this society, right? It's a society that doesn't continue to profit off of exploitation and murder and abuse, not just of our folks here, but of folks around the world, right? So it is hugely important for us to continue to be in these streets, continue to be lifting our voices, continue to be in solidarity with our folks who are being criminalized and who are under attack, right? Because this is the generation on the forefather, on the shoulders, right, of our forefathers and our elders in this movement. This is a generation that has a chance to make a real fucking change. We have a chance to translate these yells and these emotions and these messages on these signs into real changes, right? We're doing that with the organizing work. We're doing that with all the mutual aid networks that have popped up in LA to respond to the coronavirus pandemic, right? We're doing that with the way folks are showing up in the streets, with the way folks are organizing like they've never organized, right? So it's imperative that we continue. It's imperative that we stay in the street. It's imperative that we, especially those of us who have been out here, right? We can't get tired. We can't stop, right? Hell no! Hell no! Hell no! It's imperative that we continue to fight. And BLM, we say it is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. Right? And so we know that our brothers and sisters and siblings in Denver who have been criminalized, and our folks who have been criminalized here fighting for Dejan Kazee, right, in South Central, we know that these folks are battling for our victory, are fighting for our victory, for our victory, for all of our victories, right? So we have to know that when there's an attack against them, they're attacking this victory, they're attacking this future, this vision, this world that we're trying to build, right? And so I'm so grateful for PSL, for continuing to be in the streets, for continuing to do the work in between, for continuing to have the important conversations, to organize new folks, to bring new folks into this movement, because that's what we've all got to do. It is our duty to fight for freedom. It is our duty to win, right? And so I'm blessed to be here with y'all and to help uplift this issue and to demand justice and change, not just for the 4 folks who have been arrested or the countless folks who have been murdered by the state, but for all of us, right? For all people. So I appreciate y'all continuing to do this work, continuing to uplift that, continuing to be on these stoops, right? So that we can get this message out there, because this shit matters. This shit matters. Your presence, your voice, it matters. It is contributing to changing the fucking world. And not in no like weak fairy tale kind of way. In the everyday, difficult ass, grinded out way that it's gonna take for us to actually win. Right? So we're continuing to demand justice, like I said, here in LA, for Dejan Kazee, for Andres Guardado, for Anthony McLean, and for over 620 folks who have been murdered by law enforcement in the last 7 years alone. And beyond that, we're demanding justice for all of our communities, which is a reorganization of this society, which doesn't allow black folks to be murdered in the streets like that, which doesn't allow indigenous children and immigrant children to be separated from their families. Fuck that! Fuck that! Fuck that! So our presence here, our voices, these are a promise and a call to action. So continue, PSL, to lift up that call to action. Continue to inspire and to bring folks and to educate folks into this movement. And we with BLMLA will continue to be in solidarity with y'all. Appreciate y'all.
Black lives, they matter here. 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 Killer cops off our streets. 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 Thank you, Joseph. I was having a little bit of trouble thinking about how to introduce Joseph and Black Lives Matter. I think you all know how important Black Lives Matter is on a national stage as an organization. Can we please get a round of applause for BLM and their struggle? I want to do something which hasn't been said already. I want to talk specifics about those 4 comrades who were arrested. One in particular stands out. Her name is Lillian House. She's an organizer in Denver, and she was charged with multiple felonies. The main one being kidnapping. An unarmed protester is charged with kidnapping 18 armed officers. Why? Because she and her other comrades organized a sit-in in front of a police station. A sit-in in front of a police station is now seen as kidnapping. Of course, the police could have walked through the back. The police could have gone out anyway. The police are the ones with the tear gas, with the batons. But somehow it was the protesters. Somehow it was Lillian. Somehow it was Joel. Somehow it was Eliza. Somehow it was Russell who were the kidnappers. It's hilarious because the kidnappers in society today are now protesters. This country was founded on kidnapping. It was founded on kidnapping and enslavement. This country sustains itself from the kidnapping of our wealth. The real kidnappers are on Wall Street, let's be real. The real kidnappers are in Washington, D.C. They're in LAPD. They're in the Sheriff's Department, the Sheriff's Station in South Central. The ones who murdered Dijon Kizzy, who murdered A.J. Weber, who murdered Andres Guardado. Those are the real kidnappers in society, not the people who are trying to change society. We need to understand that. And I also want to bring home one final important point. The fact that if Joel, if Eliza, if Lillian, if Russell, if none of them were part of an organization, would any of us be here today? If they weren't part of an organization, a national organization that had their back, that even though they're over there in Denver, over here in Los Angeles, their comrades here are willing to take the streets and to tell the people, get the media out here, that this is a fundamental violation of our rights. It doesn't matter whether it's in Denver or if it's in Los Angeles, it affects us all. If they weren't part of our organizations, they would be like the hundreds of other protesters who have been arrested during this uprising. I don't know how many of you have been to a protest. I don't know how many of you are part of an organization or have been around an organization. But maybe it might surprise you that we in the red shirts say comrade instead of friend or acquaintance or co-worker or whatever. Oh, by the way, we don't get paid for this. But the reason we say comrade, yes, we are communists. The reason we say comrade is because comrade is a point of political being. It means that Preston is accountable to me. It means I'm accountable to every other red shirt here. I know that if I'm in trouble, if the police are at my door, if the officers are at my door with their SWAT team, or if they take me down at Home Depot, or if they take me down while I'm driving like they did to the comrades in Denver, I know that my comrades in New York, in Rochester, in Los Angeles, in wherever the hell the PSL is, which is every state in the country. That they will be standing up, they will be organizing their own protests, they will get the other organizations in the movement to stand up. That is what it means to be a comrade. That is what it means to be a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Not just to stand up and fight for justice when it's popular or when it's unpopular. It's to say that we are all in this together, and that those of us who want to commit our lives to fighting for justice, that you're not alone, that there are a number of us who are willing to be there for you. That is what it means to be a PSL member, and that is why I'm proud to be a PSL member. And as we end today, I want to give one final thank you to all the different organizations that came out here, many of which could not make it out today, but gave their stunning endorsement. And of course, all the many organizations outside of the United States who are calling for the freedom of the political prisoners. But let me just name off some of the local ones. Of course, BLM, but also BLM Pasadena, the Church Without Walls, MLK Coalition of Greater Los Angeles, Veterans for Peace, KMB, Pro People Youth, the Answer Coalition, and Creating Justice LA. Let's give a round warm of applause for that coalition. Before you all leave here today, I want to make sure you all stay connected. It's about organization. We'll win if we're united, if we're strategic and tactical. Please join an organization. We have sign-ups over there at that table. The man's raising his hand right there. Please sign up and get involved. Everyone has a role, everyone has a role and a place in this movement. No matter where you are, no matter what political level you are, the only thing that matters is that if you're willing to fight for what is right. So, thank you everyone for being here and have a great evening. Thank you.
Check, check, check. 1, 2, 3. Hello, sir. Are you one of the organizers here?
One of the organizers, yeah.
Can I speak with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Can I put you on camera? So my name is Jonathan. I'm with the Convo Couch here. We are independent media. We've heard about the event the arrests that happened out there in Denver. It's important that that people show solidarity with that. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Adon. I'm an organizer with the Party for Socialism and Liberation here in Los Angeles. We're a national organization, and we're out here to stand in solidarity with some of our organizers, some of our leading organizers in the Denver city of Colorado. On Thursday, 4 of them were arrested. They weren't at a protest. They were either at home, on their way somewhere, coming from work. And one of our comrades was actually arrested with the SWAT team that had arrived at his home with a tank. We call it a tank. Some people might call it an MRAP. It's a mine-resistant armored vehicle. So our comrades were arrested with the charges that they were given were kidnapping charges. They had kidnapped. They're being charged by the district attorney, a Democratic party member, district attorney, who did not charge the 3 officers that murdered Elijah McClain, but rather he is now charging the leading organizers of the protest that have brought to light the case of Elijah McClain, a 23-year-old self-taught violinist who was on his way home. It's absolutely horrible that this young human being was taken from our society, from our human family. And so our comrades, a year after, and even from back then, they were organizing, but with the protests that came out with the nationwide revolt against racism that happened after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, we saw that the case of Elijah McClain was getting more traction. And so our comrades were organizing various protests every weekend, sit-in the city council, going from Denver to Aurora, which is like an over 10-mile march with thousands of people. And so our comrades are being targeted right now by the law enforcement of Denver and Aurora PD, who are absolutely afraid. it's quite, as my comrade was saying earlier, how is 18 armed law enforcement agents afraid of a couple hundred unarmed protesters? That situation and all the situations that keep happening all across the United States where people are rising up, and it's important to notice that the people aren't afraid. On June 1st, which was a couple days after George Floyd was murdered in Washington, D.C., the law enforcement agencies said, hey, Donald Trump wants to walk over to that church, take a photo op with that Bible. Let's repress all these protesters in midday. They didn't warn them, nothing. And what did that repression bring? The next day, hundreds of thousands of people showed out to Washington, D.C. And that's what was happening all across the country, it's that slogan, repression breeds resistance. And the people are not going to be repressed. And so that's what we're doing out here today. We want to make, it was a speak out, maybe it was a little small rally, whatever. But it was actually absolutely important because we're getting the word out to the world that there are political prisoners right here, right now in these United States. There are new political prisoners that are being created just these past few weeks. But we still got comrades that have been in prison, like Rochelle McGee, one of the oldest political prisoners, over 50 years since the 60s. I mean, the United States targets countries all around the world. Venezuela, you got political prisoners. North Korea, you got political prisoners, blah, blah, blah. There's political prisoners right here in the United States. And so we're out here just to say, drop all the charges against our organizers, and we're speaking out justice for Elijah McClain, and that those 3 officers absolutely need to be charged.
Yeah, they still haven't been arrested or charged or anything, right? There hasn't been anything. There's been an investigation, I know. We did a story on that.
Those 3 officers to this day are still on the force in Aurora PD. They have not been charged. The only 3 officers that were fired were the Aurora PD officers that went and had a little photo op. They did a little chokehold thing. They were the ones that were arrested. And it was that same day, and it's that rally, that protest outside that precinct that our comrades are being charged with of kidnapping. So we responded and said, oh shit, this picture is being circulated. Yo, we got to show up. And so our comrades showed up. The people were mad, just the brutality and the inhumanity of these law enforcement agencies. And so, no, absolutely. Those 3 officers are still on the force. And that district attorney was the one that said they did not commit any crime. And therefore, after the investigation, we're not going to prosecute any charges. And so our demand is still that those 3 officers absolutely need to be charged.
Well, thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate you. Adon Placencia.
You have any questions?
You have a business card?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, hold on.
We actually interviewed Gloria.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was
You know what?
amazing.
That was
interview.
like maybe like a week or 2 ago?
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect, dude.
Yeah, we interviewed her. It was great. I'm voting for her.
Yeah, dope. I appreciate that, bro.
All right.
Yeah,
wonderful.
absolutely. She might be in LA in a few weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I need to sign up with y'all.
Yeah, sign up on our mailing list. But I'll put you in our media list so you can make sure you get.
Do be sure to support Black entrepreneurs.
Let's see. I'm looking for. Boom, 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 boom. We have Black entrepreneurs out here, and I wanted to talk to the gentleman from BLM LA. Looks like he left. And we'll see. Hold on. Excuse me, Preston. Hi. So you're a founding member of PSL? Okay. I just wanted to say that it was, great hearing about, just the duopoly, right? How we have 2 bad choices, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. I'm curious about your thoughts on the movement for a People's Party.
Well, I think that's what we're looking towards. We're looking for larger organizations that can, smaller organizations coming together, forming larger one. The idea of having as much unity as possible and with organization. And that's some sort of form of a party that we would need. Call it People's Party, or that's fine. That's what we have to think big. And we have to, there's going to be so many other groups rising up, and, that's what happened in the 60s. There were all these little collectives, and then everyone started joining the larger organizations. But I think with the experience that organizers now have, especially the young people here, and being so diverse, and so there's a great potential for more unity than before. And there's a new kind of view of socialism that Bernie helped kind of lift the fog on that. So people can think about socialism and how working people could actually run society and make decisions and be the ones who, are responsible for justice and for people getting along. So I think that that's something we all are looking towards. We recognize we can't all be divided into little groups, and we need to find mechanisms where we can unite and provide the kind of organization that's needed. I mean, you see a lot of it at the big demonstrations, like Black Lives Matter demonstrations, how well organized. And having been around a long time, our newer members in PSL, they're already class conscious. They understand imperialism and colonialism and its relationship, international imperialism. Yeah, right. And they also, they don't have a lot of the kind of middle-class suburban things that a lot of the radical guys had in the 60s. They're more down to earth. And they come from diverse backgrounds all over the world, So I think it's your question is very good. And the answer is yes.
So I'm not sure if you're still within the organizing of the entire party or anything like that, but I'm not. Do you know if they reached out to Gloria La Riva for?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so she declined to be in the Movement for a People's Party convention. I don't know. I'm asking you.
Oh, the People's Party. That I don't know. That I don't know about.
Absolutely. Right. Okay. A couple other questions. It was important that we saw BLMLA out here. We're starting to see a coalition being built with multiple organizations. You kind of spoke on that. I'm curious on your thoughts. Do you Party for Socialism and Liberation? Julian Assange. What do you think about that?
Well, what are they? He exposed all of this that was going on, right? He told the truth. He was a reporter. He's a journalist, and he's being attacked as being an enemy of the state. They should be praising him for all the work he did and all the exposés and all the. So we stand in solidarity with him, and we see him as being one of the biggest victims of this whole machine that's attacking people like that who dare publish the truth about the corruption and all the horror crimes that they're committing, and they don't want to hear it. And so that's why they're persecuting him. He's persecuted. So we stand with that. We stand with him.
Did you experience the Black Panther Party? Or were you?
I did, actually. I was familiar with them early on, and actually they were one of the founding organizations of the Peace and Freedom Party. And they came to my house. I was living in Santa Barbara at the time, and signed me up for Peace and Freedom Party, some of the Black Panther organizers. And as an activist, excuse me, they were a source of inspiration for all of us, because they really knew how to reach out and to regular people, and also how to build unity. They were very good fundraisers. They were very good statisticians. They got taken down by the state eventually in horrible ways, but their legacy still lives on.
It's interesting. We still see Bobby Rush. He's in the Senate. I remember seeing the murder of Fred Hampton, the documentary. It's so I don't know what happened there with Bobby Rush. I guess he's fine, or
yeah. Some survived, but some of the more revolutionary ones they assassinated.
What do you think about Bernie? What are you guys' thoughts on election integrity? Because we've been covering election integrity. It's kind of our wheelhouse. I was there the night of the Super Tuesday where they count the votes in Downey, and we saw just the tally machines. They were just instantly scanning and tabulating the results, and then right now there's a lawsuit. Raji Rab, congressional candidate, he's actually gone to the Supreme Court in 2018. He's suing again Dean Logan, election official, Alex Padilla, Secretary of State. What are your thoughts on election integrity?
Well, are you referring to what you saw? You saw a lot of corruption or things going on that were not,
Specifically in that lawsuit, Raji said that an election official told him that they started counting ballots 10 days before the election day, which they're allowed to do in the election book, but they're not allowed to have access to the count. But the machine, it's a new machine. He's saying that they had access to the account, and we're not supposed to. We can't just trust them.
And for all the people to be aware and be able to know what's going on, and the election system in this country is a disaster. Only a small portion actually vote because they don't have the means or the education or whatever it is to go to the polls, and they're not engaged, and they're alienated. There's no one, so we, through Gloria La Riva, we run in the campaign to advertise our program and to reach out to other groups and reach out to other people. But when it comes to the elections, we're a long way from it really being that democratic because it's also rigged from the get-go, Yeah, so we would like to have, and that's what should be on the program for true election, thing where prisoners can't vote unless they can pay their bills. What are you talking about?
Do you think Bernie Sanders was robbed in the Democratic primary?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think they destroyed him. They went after him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They wanted to crush it. They were terrified of how he could have opened up new levels of struggle, for people. So, yeah. Then, of course, he had to capitulate and become a team player, but that's unfortunate. But that's not that surprising. He doesn't have a long history of activism. He wasn't. I don't remember him ever speaking at the anti-war rallies in Vietnam and stuff. He just sort of came out of nowhere, and he was great. He inspired millions of people, especially young people, but not just young people, but people of color and everything else eventually. So that was their worst nightmare, that he would. Because let's face it, I think he would have won the election.
I think so as well. Any last thoughts, and maybe people who are inspired by what they've seen here today, what they should do in their respective states? We have people all across the country watching.
Yeah, well, call a demonstration, call a picket line, call an action. Don't worry about how big it's going to be. Just do your best. If you get 10 people and you're in a small town, that's huge. And not to be intimidated, just to go out and then, go to those people, try to get lawyers to help you and learn the ropes. And that's what we need to do. But that is what's going on. We have people calling us from all these small towns, like in Wyoming and Montana, and they're demonstrating. And that's scary too.
The elites are scared, that's for sure. Thank you so much, sir. What's your name? I'm Jonathan Mayorka.
Preston Wood. Preston Wood, yeah.
Thank you so much, Preston.
Pleasure talking to you.
Take care. We actually interviewed Gloria La Riva.
Oh, great. Yeah, please do, yeah. So we can be in touch. Great. Nice to see you.
Take care. All right, fam. When did you get here? Did you hear any of it?
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I think it's awesome to have the coordination between PSL and Black Lives Matter, because I think that's the solidarity that needs to happen when I'm looking at things you want to achieve tactically as a movement. If you really want to defund the police, if you want to actually make changes in government, you have to build coalitions with people, and that's what I've been seeing lacking in general in the protests. It's like they've been so non-centralized that they haven't really gotten those coalitions. But a couple of coalitions I've seen that I think need to be really highlighted. One of them is the coalition with the immigration reform folks who really are fighting the prisons that people are in, because they're still prisons. You can call them detention centers, whatever, but they're still prisons. They're still operated by the same machine. And the coalition between that and the people fighting to end police brutality is important. And then you have people like PSL who are very much aware not only of the racial issue, but obviously of the economic issues that impact everybody, including white working people, but also, of course, especially the minorities in these communities. And you can tell in LA, there is a lot of differences where you live that depends on how your roads look and how the police treat you, etc. So I think that is the economic arm that really needed to happen and needs to happen even more. to have a coalition with that, because a lot of people complain that no, this is all just talking about race and everybody's poor. Well, here is the coalition. When you start talking about economics, this is when people start getting afraid. This is when they're going to start maligning people. This is where the Malcolm X's and the Fred Hamptons of the world were really leading, because that is what we need here. We need to build solidarity with all people together and fight the whole system and not focus on this stupid election, because Joe Biden isn't going to change your life. Joe Biden is the architect of the very system we are living in that Trump is exploiting. So it's just so we need to focus on really who is the problem here. The problem is the system. The problem are these people, these oligarchies. I was in Malibu earlier, and the amount of wealth that's there compared to like what I'm coming here, it's disgusting. There's empty mansions there. I mean, if you don't want to happen what happened in the USSR, where they occupied the mansions and made them into apartments, well, people are going to get there because people are starving here in the streets, and there's so much opulence in the 1%. So economic has to be the thing we talk about, because economics is right now being thrown in your face as these fires burn, as we have earthquakes, pandemics, hurricanes. We have no health care. We have people who are unemployed, and we have people who, even if employed, are making half the wages they were making. Nobody's even talking about that. The people who are employed are not making the money they used to make because the whole system is fucked. So if we don't really pay attention to economics and build that coalition, and we really would love to see it. Where are the Green Party members? Where are the Movement for a People's Party? This is a valuable opportunity to be out here building coalitions with these people that from all of these places. There's no ego in this. This isn't about my party, my movement, my idea. This is about getting together and getting all these things that we want. People think that electoral politics is gonna get them what they want. Electoral politics is one tiny aspect of it. We have no power in the electorate. Our power right now is in the streets, is in demanding this. The fact that people need to be able to connect what's happening to those 4 people who were arrested in Denver to what's happening to Julian Assange, because because both of these things are entirely connected, and people need to realize this is why Assange is important, because if they can do that to him, make an example of him being a journalist, him having all these defenses, him telling you the truth. All he did was tell the American people what the government lied to them about. If that's a crime, then of course protesting is going to be a crime. Then of course everything else where you are standing up to the establishment, of course it's going to be a crime. So again, that we are criminalizing dissent, we are criminalizing protesting, we are criminalizing journalism, and that is fascism. You are living in it. And whether you vote for Biden or Trump, it's not going to change. What has to change is what we do here and now, and the stories we cover.
That was great. I want to talk to somebody I know here. Where'd they go? They were just here. Where'd they go? Rodolfo was just here. Where the hell did he go? He was just here. Alrighty, so damn, there's 2 people I wanted to talk to that left. I wanted to talk to Joseph, who was from BLM-LA, who was here.
Joseph actually left.
Yeah, I know he left. And everybody, Glory Jones, big fan of the Convo Couch and all other independent media. She follows us around.
Shout out chat game. Shout out mod game. Holly, Tony. Anyone else? I'm sorry if I forgot you.
Holly, Tony.
Shout out Slow News Day.
What about Assange?
What about Assange?
With the Washington events.
Yeah, so everybody, I don't know the exact details of the events, but every day at 2:00 there's going to be an action led by Action for Assange. All day, Monday through Friday this week, to protest the ongoing show trial of Julian Assange. I don't know the exact actions, but I forgot them. But there's a graphic on my Twitter. If you just want to go to Glory Jones on Twitter, I shared it. Or even better, go straight to Action for Assange. Follow them. If you're in DC, please join them and help them make noise. Again, with them arresting protesters and them attacking journalists, what's happening to Julian Assange is so monumentally important. I can't even stress how important this case is. You can't criminalize publishing, like not even whistleblowing, but publishing. The Espionage Act is nothing new. It's like 20,000 times older than me. What's new is them choosing to charge a journalist specifically for the act of publishing, and they can frame it however they want. They can frame it through hacking, through freaking soliciting leaks, through all that bullcrap. At the end of the day, they are attacking, torturing, and persecuting Julian Assange for publishing war crimes, which, war criminals and CIA spooks want to cover up. So at the end of the day, we cannot let that happen. This case going on right now is one of the most important cases of press freedom, and it has broader implications on civil liberties as a whole. Because, let's be real, if you go to these protests, you're not getting protected by the cops. You're getting protected by the press, which is filming those motherfuckers and making sure they're not tear gassing you or they're not trying to beat you up. Granted, they do that anyway, but it's not as bad at least, and there's at least video evidence that you can hold them accountable with. So we need the press for that, and we also just need to protect our civil liberties, because anytime you take your camera, anytime you whistleblow against someone or you expose something, and it's something that the government doesn't like, if they can extradite an Australian citizen from the UK for releasing war crimes, what can they do to you for filming a police officer beating up a citizen? What can they do if you're at these protests and you're filming the obvious and disproportionate brutality being committed against these protesters? If they can take you away, if they can torture and persecute you for just doing that, what does that mean for our civil liberties? It means we're fucked. It means the free press is in immense danger with this case. Everybody, please follow Action for Assange. Please keep following Convo Couch. Man, I know your chat. You probably already follow these people. But please follow Action for Assange, Convo Couch. Please follow Slow News Day, Taylor Hudak, Niko House, Kevin Gostola, Richard Medhurst, Jimmy Dore, Consortium News, Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal. Shout out Anya Parenpool for following me on Twitter. I'm really gassed about that. I'm so sorry. I know I'm forgetting people, because there's so many more real indie media people that I really, really, really and truly respect for covering this case and for putting in shifts to spread the word about it. So, I know she always appreciates shout outs, so shout out Comrade Misty. She has a podcast too, Facts on the Ground. Follow that too. And just please keep following independent media that is really reporting on this case, because I promise you, the information is already out there. It's just about you receiving it. It's just about you getting to it and following it and spreading the word and not letting this be okay, because it's not. It's literally such an injustice what they're doing. They are literally in court interrupting CIA torture victims to try and extradite this man. They put him behind bulletproof glass. They didn't even do that for fucking Nazis on trial, but they're going to do that for someone revealing war crimes. So
that's a good point, Glory, that they didn't do that for Nazis on trial. Bye.
Oh yeah, I saw you last night.
Hey.
Hi.
Peace.
Have a good night.
Do you have something to say, sir? Were you a part of this organization?
Thank you.
Do you have anything to say?
What media outlet are you with?
Independent media. We're at Convo Couch. We actually interviewed Gloria La Riva. Are you good?
I'm a transit worker, and obviously this is political persecution. I'm a transit worker here in Los Angeles, and an injury to one is an injury to all.
Thank you, sir.
By the way.
All right, so I think we're done here, guys. It looks like it's been cleared out. And yeah, Interesting protest. We're starting to see a coalition being built, as Fiorella has said. We've seen BLMLA out here, although one representative, it still means a lot. Coalition being built with PSL, which is interesting. Anything else, fam?
No, guys. So, Johnny, should we go to Denver? Like, should we go? Is there? No, it's under $100 to go to Denver.
You said 1,000.
100, under 100. Yeah, I thought you. No. Oh, I guess that must have been my typo. I'm sorry, you guys. Yeah, the tickets to Denver are cheap. I want to know though exactly who we could talk to and what we could do to bring press there. So, we're gonna work that out, fams, and we're gonna see what we can do. It's important because if that's already happening, if what Barr is saying with the sedition, that he wants to bring on protesters, if that's already happening, that means that yeah, but it's already we are arresting protesters for protesting, which is a problem, especially if they do it like if they follow every rule, and they're being peaceful, and yet the narrative gets twisted like we've been covering on the whole time. We haven't seen any, I guess the craziest protests were in Portland, but even that, the worst you saw was water bottles thrown at cops. But in Los Angeles themselves, the protests haven't been fireworks, maybe. But in Los Angeles itself, we really didn't see very much at all. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. I just always like to bring up the connections between things, the connections between everything that's been happening right now. The system is failing as a whole, and because the system is failing and the system is it's operating as it should, but it's failing for the vast majority of people. People are going to start getting angry once this shit hits the fan, because remember, we still have evictions coming. We still don't have any more help from the government. You got one $1,200 check that many people still didn't get. And then you have all of this civil unrest. It's not a coincidence that it's all happening at the same time. But I think more people should be aware of what's happening to Julian Assange, and more people should be covering it, and not just covering it like, okay, we mentioned it, so now we're meeting our quota, TYT, and then bringing in Russiagate. But at the same time, we should be covering it in depth, talking about how connecting it to what's going on right now. Because when people see the connections, that's when it gets scary. Once you understand, this isn't just about this guy and what you think of him and what you feel personally. This is about the very important issue of our civil liberties, First Amendment rights, and journalism, and how we protect people who are dissenting the government. That's what's really important. So.
All right, we're going to sign off.
All right, guys. From Fee.
And Johnny.
Convo out. We have groupies here.